Mark Blundell, it's not the world title, but it's a huge move towards it.
It's a massive step towards it. And the one thing what happened today is the rookie made no mistakes whatsoever. The current world champion made plenty. And that's the big difference about today's performance. Fantastic by Lewis Hamilton.
Give us an idea of the kind of pressure he must have been under, especially in those closing laps.
Believe me, I don't understand the pressure he was under there. Leading the Grand Prix, leading the World Championship in those kind of conditions. You've got to take your hat off to all of the drivers. But Lewis was faultless. A little bit of a moment with somebody else on the circuit, but himself made no mistakes whatsoever. You can't buy that. That's sheer luck. No, sheer performance. Yeah, it's just beauty of the natural ability that Lewis has got.
It was absolutely wonderful. It was a race packed full of incident. We got a bit of extra time to take you through it all, and rest assured we need it. We'll be back with all the opinions from the drivers and all the reaction to this outstanding Japanese Grand Prix in a few minutes. In the soaking wet conditions of the Fuji Speedway, Britain's Lewis Hamilton has won this Japanese Grand Prix. His closest championship challenger, Fernando Alonso, his McLaren teammate, was a non-finisher. Even by Lewis's standards, this was one of the outstanding drives of his extraordinary season. But Mark Blundell, so much to reflect on that's taken place over the last couple of hours. One of the stars, one of the heroes, certainly from the spectators' point of view, must be race director Charlie Whiting for getting this spectacle underway at all.
I think a lot of respect to Charlie for letting the race take its place there. I think it all came about when Lutzi was allowed to do that pass-by lap, and the lap time obviously came, and he could see that the performance of the cars was there. Then he decided to let the race run. Very clever and a good decision.
And when it started, it looked unlikely that we'd have any kind of a race at all.
It did look unlikely, and but thankfully we had a race, and what an extraordinary race it was as well. A fantastic event. But again, I'm just a little bit lost for words at the moment because Lewis Hamilton, awe-inspiring performance.
OK, let's go through it sort of chronologically. We had a talking point right at the start with Ferrari making this amazing decision not to start on the full wet tyres, as apparently they were instructed to.
Well, normally what you do, you get an FIA decision takes place, and they will then email that across to the teams, and they will be told to go on the extreme wet weather tyre. It seems Ferrari didn't get that information. They went out on what we say the intermediate tyre is. They had to pit, refuel, put the different tyre back on, lost them a lot of time, put them to the back of the grid.
And give us some idea of the consternation that would have caused down the pit lane, with everyone then worrying about whether fuel was going to last the distance, what the safety car was going to do. Still so many imponderables in the race. A
lot of different situations happening there, and maybe then people thinking that Ferrari had pulled a fast one, they'd managed to put more fuel on, maybe they'd played the rules to more of an extent than many other people. But I think they lost out in the end. I think Ferrari could have been a little bit stronger if they'd have played straight from day one.
Well, it was a particular relief to Lewis Hamilton, who was leading the pack, and McLaren in particular, when that safety car came in. How did Lewis handle the restart when the action got underway?
Once again, Lewis Hamilton just impeccable, because this is the thing about Lewis. Under pressure, he makes no mistakes whatsoever. He just backs everybody up nicely and then just takes command. Obviously, they can't overtake until they cross the start-finish line. But again, he commands it. He's got that clear vision. Everybody else is in his spray. And that was the race for him. He just commanded it from the restart. Alonso really pushing madly, trying to get to the outside to get that clear vision going into turn one. But nothing he could do about Lewis Hamilton today.
But even at that point, a 1-2 finish was by no means assured, was it?
It wasn't assured, no. There's so many things going on during the race. And Alonso had a few problems. He fell off the circuit a couple of times and actually, come to the end of his race with an incident.
Well, Lewis had some crises.
They both met on the exit of the corner. Lewis would have had no chance whatsoever to save himself from this. And to be fair to Kubica, he probably would have had no chance to stop himself understeering into Lewis. Kubica actually got a penalty for that.
We're feeling that Lewis, hardly made a mistake during the entire race. That wasn't a mistake from his point of view.
No way whatsoever. He's the leading car. He was just on the outside line trying to find grip. Kubica came upon him. Lewis made no mistakes in that race.
It did seem immediately after that he had some kind of problem. He was off the pace for just a lap or two.
I think maybe he just had to recompose himself and also just get his rhythm back again. When you're in these wet conditions, it's all about rhythm, and all the time you're trying to find the grip. Just composure. After that, yes, a couple of laps a little bit slower by his standards, but then he was off again.
Alonso, as you were saying, made mistakes. He never seemed to have that rhythm, and he made a huge one at turn 5.
Yeah, I think unfortunately for him, he's pushing so hard because he was away back, just trying to get himself back in contention, falling off the circuit, gets clipped here with the car there, the Toro Rosso car. Again, damages his car as well. The floor of his car was very heavily damaged, but this is the big problem. He just loses the rear of the car, it looks like, in the exit, and turns himself into the barrier. Quite a big accident, Steve, big impact, but the end of his race there. Shouldn't be happening with a world champion.
And he really does need something quite special in the last couple of races to take this title away from Lewis. That might be the feeling. Let's get the thoughts of Fernando Alonso, who I believe is with Lewis.
Fernando, we could see you had damage to your car before you went off. Did that contribute in any way to your accident?
I don't think so. To be honest, because I had aquaplaning and the car was into the wall, and I think the aerodynamics were not an important factor this time.
Were you quite happy that the race took place in the conditions that we've seen today?
I don't know. It's very easy to say now that it's good or not decision, but in that moment I was happy to start the race because we are here to race. We are drivers. We want to have the competition, and it was the same conditions for everybody, so nothing we can say.
Just tell us about your strategy, because obviously when you came in to refuel, it brought you out right in the middle of a pack of cars. What was going through your mind then?
Another unlucky moment, because I was fighting with Luis. I was a little bit quicker in the first part, but it was difficult to follow that close because I didn't see the corners with the spray in the water. And then when I pit, I was behind 4 cars, and when he pit, he was in front of 4 cars. So, nothing we can do now.
Obviously, this victory has given him quite a substantial lead in the championship. Is it over for you now?
Well, it's not over because mathematically you have to be over. But no doubts that I need, a very unlucky weekend for him. I need a retirement from Luis with a mechanical problem or something to have a chance to win. If the races are completely normal, it's over.
Thanks.
It's not over, but it's looking very good indeed for Lewis. And it's not over, obviously, in the mind of Kimi Raikkonen either. He was absolutely outstanding. He doesn't go away in terms of the championship.
No, he doesn't. And Kimi drove an outstanding race, as you say. I mean, he was finding grip off the circuit, let alone on it, and really pushed to the end there. And unfortunately, he couldn't get by Kovalainen. But, I think the rainmaster today was Lewis Hamilton. Alonso knows the tables are turned. Pressure's now on Fernando to come back at him.
Well, from the back of the pack, Raikkonen got himself onto the podium. So too did Heikki Kovalainen. But it's Lewis Hamilton who's taken victory here in the Japanese Grand Prix, and the top 3 are in the press conference.
Lewis, difficult to know where to start. What a race. Diabolical conditions. Started behind the safety car. Pressure initially from your teammate Fernando Alonso, and then an incident with Robert Kubica.
Yes, a very, very eventful race. I think there was so many times during the race where I'm sure it went through all the drivers' heads, we should stop the race. It was sometimes very, very tricky, and then sometimes it was drying up, well, not drying up, but easier to drive. And, we had obviously the safety car at the beginning, and I was so eager to get going. And, after the first safety car, obviously, at the beginning, got off to a decent start. I didn't particularly feel any pressure from Fernando. I was saving fuel and easily driving away, and could have, if needed to, pushed more if he was on my tail. And then we came to do the pit stops, and I came out and I heard that he had been off but come back on, and he was 5 places behind me or something like that. So that was a plus, and I just had to try and keep it on the track. But then obviously I collided with Robert, and it was just so tricky out there. You couldn't see. I couldn't see in my mirrors. My visor was all fogged up, so I could see very, very little, and it was foggy. And so I didn't see that he was on the inside of me, and very fortunate I still finished.
It sounds as if you're taking the blame for that one. If you could perhaps add to that. And then was the car damaged after that? Because you were a little bit slow after that incident for a few laps.
Well, I didn't say I was taking the blame for it. I think when you're behind someone, you have to take it easy, especially with regards to the conditions. And, I couldn't see him. It was clear, like you just said, that maybe he was a little bit too far behind or not fully up the inside to make the move. But, I couldn't see him, I couldn't hear him. And he touched me. And for him, it wasn't really a risk he needed to take. He could have taken me down the straight or somewhere else or whatever. But, and then I felt that there was a vibration, and I thought, shoot, there's something wrong with my car. The rear tyre was going down, or there was something wobbling. And I had it through the rest of the race. There was some big vibration. And I was very fortunate. The team said the car seems to be okay, so just keep it on the track.
How did the race feel now that it's finished? Did it feel unbelievably long? What were the closing laps like? What was the restart like behind the second safety car?
Yeah, it was the longest race probably of my life. It just seemed to go on and on and on. And once we had the safety car, obviously when we were behind the safety car, I was constantly onto my engineers saying, hey, look, tell the Red Bull team to tell Mark to just make a little bit more of a gap, because I couldn't go any faster. because the pace car was in front of me, so I was trying to keep the distance with him. But then I'd move over just in case because I couldn't see Mark, and all of a sudden he would just appear alongside me, so he kept out braking himself. And I thought, I felt something was going to happen. And I guess I was right, my instincts told me right. But and then we did the restart. Again, when we were behind the safety car and Heikki was behind me, I was again nervous, just hoped that we didn't collide, but he did a good job. And the last few laps, the team were telling me to slow down. You're still a second faster than everyone. And I said, well, I'm going as slow, really, as I feel comfortable doing. And but toward the last couple of laps, I just took it really easy because it was so wet, and my tyres are getting old, and aquaplaning. It would have been easy to take it off, but I'm thrilled to take it, bring it home, and great for the team.
Congratulations to you,
Thank
Lewis.
you.
Heikki Kovalainen, the first ever podium with 2 Finns on it, and you beat the other Finn, the illustrious Kimi Räikkönen. What a race that was in the closing stages.
Yeah, tell me about it. What a rollercoaster year it's been for us, especially myself. And then this weekend again, making a little bit of a gamble with the car yesterday, hoping it would be dry today. And then this morning it was raining probably more than yesterday. So, things didn't look, fantastic at the start of the race, but, you never give up. You always keep going, and you never know what happens. And our strategy worked out really well today. So I think the team deserves, one podium at least from this year. And today the pace was good at the end of the race. Good fight with Kimi. I knew I couldn't see him. My mirrors was steamed up, but I saw my pit board, and every lap was a second closer to me. So I knew at some point he's going to attack. But I managed to keep him behind, so it's fantastic.
What was it like? I know you've just described it. What was it like actually having that pressure from Kimi in terms of your concentration level and where you felt maybe he was quicker than you, perhaps where you had an advantage?
I had no idea, to be honest, where he was quicker. I think he was probably everywhere a little bit quicker. The gap was coming down so fast. All I could do is just to stay on the tracks, that Lewis's car was leaving on the track. And I was aquaplaning in many places, and I really wanted to take the second place, so I was willing to take a risk, and I kept flat out through those aquaplaning moments and just hoped that I don't lose the car. And I managed to keep it on the track, so that was the key.
Absolutely fantastic drive. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And Kimi, a brilliant drive from you too, from the back of the field, sadly. Tell us about that decision off the line to be on the Bridgestone wet rather than the extreme wet and having to come in so early in the race.
Yeah, we made a decision to start on the intermediates. It started to rain a bit behind the safety car, but that wasn't really the issue. It was more for me at least to see anything, because on the straight I couldn't see the car even if it was 50 meters in front of me. But now after the race I heard that there was some new rules, so they forced everybody to start on the full wets, but the FIA or the race control, whoever, forgot to tell our team that kind of rule came out, and they forced us to pit behind the safety car, so it cost us a lot, but nothing what we could do on that point. Was in the last place, and all race couldn't really do much because I couldn't see anything, and just try to get past people in a low spot of the circuit, because then you can see much more. And then tried to overtake Heikki. Actually, I got past him in the last lap, but went a bit too fast, and he got me an exit again. But the biggest problem was really to try to see the circuit or the other cars, and it was a quite difficult race, but at least we got something out of it.
Terrific drive from Kimi Räikkönen today, but like Fernando Alonso, he's now clinging to the sort of wreckage of his championship challenge. Lewis Hamilton's victory here in Japan will have more reaction in a few minutes. It's been a brilliant victory by Lewis Hamilton in this Japanese Grand Prix. Everyone around the paddock is doing the championship arithmetic, but the simple calculation is that if Lewis finishes ahead of Alonso in Japan, then he's the world champion, which is extraordinary, isn't it?
If he finishes ahead of Alonso in Shanghai, then he'll be the world champion.
Next round.
Next round is, and that's quite possible. So, we're all waiting for next weekend very quickly.
Well, he's trying to absorb, I'm sure, exactly what he's achieved here this afternoon. Meantime, another young driver in the field, 20-year-old Sebastian Vettel, is trying to absorb let's call it the huge disappointment of taking out Mark Webber.
Yeah, big disappointment. Both drivers really disappointed with this because it's just after a restart, Steve. The guys are warming up, laying in second and third position. And at this stage, Vettel, unfortunately, seems to just run into the back of Webber. Webber very upset with that. But that's the inexperience. I think probably Webber just got caught out with that as well.
Yeah, well, I suppose we must apologise once again for Mark Webber's the strength of his language in his reaction early on this Sunday morning. Understandable in a way.
Yeah, very understandable. You could see that there was a podium on for Mark Webber. He was actually running very competitively with lap times. A little bit of frustration coming up.
OK, we won't hear from Mark Webber again, but we can hear from Sebastian Vettel.
Sebastian, a terrible situation. Two of the Red Bull cars colliding with each other. Just tell us exactly how it happened.
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm very sorry for Mark. I had no intention to put him out, and neither me. So, in the end, I was exiting turn 13 and looking at Lewis because all of a sudden he seemed to slow down really much. I thought he had a problem at that stage, and by the time I was more or less looking back to the front, I was already crashing into Mark's back, or rear end. So I don't know. I mean. In the end, we cannot rewind. So it's a bit of a shame because obviously it was a fantastic race until that stage and was very good for the team, for me. Of course, I'm disappointed with myself.
His day will come. I suppose you have to say it's all part of the learning process.
Very much so. Drivers, especially at this age, have these kind of problems come above. And unfortunately for Mark Webber, he got knocked out. That's the bad point on that one.
Well, David Coulthard has learned a great deal during the course of his long career. No disgrace for him in being overtaken by Kimi Raikkonen. DC finished in 4th place. His best finish since Monaco last year.
Yeah, great finish by DC, but you can just see the speed of Kimi Raikkonen through that corner especially. He'd actually been off the road a couple of times using that same move, but he overtook DC. I don't think DC could do anything about that, to be perfectly honest. He tried to fight, but to no avail.
Yeah, Raikkonen was brilliant today, but let's hear from David Coulthard.
David, difficult day for everybody. Just tell us what it was like out there.
Very, very difficult. It's a crazy thing to be a racing driver because on one hand you're scared, but on the other hand you're having the best time of your life because it's just every moment is on edge, including the straights. So I'm happy to score points. Obviously disappointed for the team to lose Mark's car because that looked like it was on for great points. Glad the race is over, but had a lot of fun.
Is there an element of luck involved in a race like this? I mean, how much of it is out of your control?
There's always things out of your control as a driver. Things can go wrong with the car, or you can hit a puddle that you didn't know was there before. It's difficult, but you just got to try and keep it on the black stuff.
Well done, good result.
It was a race of amazing battles right through the field. Even in the final lap, we have Massa and Kubica going at it. Extraordinary race from Felipe Massa, wasn't it?
Hammer and tongs, and I think Massa was off the circuit, on the circuit, rubbing wheels together. A lot of respect between these guys, and you've got to give them 10 out of 10 for still putting everything on at the end of the race there. But you can just see, just punching each other off the track. Huge commitment, and Massa ended up the better man on the day.
And that was with very little at stake. What exactly have these drivers proved about their courage and bravery today?
I think just exactly what you just said there. Courage, bravery. As DC just said, there's an element of being scared, but also there's an element of enjoying yourself, because it's fantastic to be driving in conditions like this and proving yourself on such a circuit. But, look at the commitment of those two guys there. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, great battle right to the end. Robert Kubica and Felipe Massa. And Kubica almost had a big part in Lewis Hamilton's day today. He almost spoiled it for him, but let's hear from Robert Kubica.
Robert, well, a race full of drama, and you were right there in the centre of some of it.
Yeah, unfortunately, beginning of the race was very risky. I don't know, for me the decision was a bit too early and was a bit mad to drive. But anyway, we had some problems with the water coming into air filter and into the engine, and I lost 2 positions on the start because I have no power in the engine. Then it cleaned up with the higher revs, and I overtook again 2 Renaults. I was doing good pace, but unfortunately we touched with Lewis. Then I get pit stop, then I get penalty, and on the restart after second safety car I have again this problem with the misfires and the water in the engine. So it cost me again to stay behind the Rubens. I spun once and finish with the fight with Massa, bit on the risky side.
Just tell us about that incident with Lewis.
I was running much quicker, and corner 13 or 14. Yeah, he was doing completely different line, or apparently he made mistake, but maybe it was different line, and he was completely wide. I was much quicker. I stay inside, and he cut into the apex, and I was there, and unfortunately we touched.
So was it his fault, your fault, or just one of those things?
Well, I think it was race accident. It was similar with Massa. Unfortunately, I saw Massa on the last lap, so I went wide, and we touched. If he would give me half meter, I would manage to go, but unfortunately he didn't saw me probably. I was a bit surprised for the penalty, but yeah, this is racing.
Thank you.
And I suppose that was the moment of luck that Lewis Hamilton required today. It would have been desperate if it had taken him out.
Oh, for sure, it would have been tragic for him. But I think, in all fairness, I think Lewis actually was the guy who had the lead in that corner, and I think Kubica maybe should have been a little bit mellow in his overtaking tactic there. But there you go, he got away with it. Both guys got away with it. One won, one didn't.
As the rain fell ahead of the race and in the early laps, we assumed it was going to be a big day and a big opportunity for Jenson Button, but it rather finished in disappointment.
Yeah, unfortunately, it did fizzle out for Jenson Button. He just got clipped in the corner there, the first turn, just with Hyde fell down. He got, unfortunately, his nose knocked off. And at one point, he actually still got some competitive lap times with that front end of his car missing. No aerodynamics whatsoever, but he had to come in and pit and lost a tremendous amount of time.
Bad day for Jenson, but a good day at last for Renault, with Heikki Kovalainen getting onto the podium. We can hear from Pat Simmons.
Well done, Pat. It seems amazing that it's your first podium of the year. I can't quite believe it. You must all be delighted, though.
Yeah, we are, you know. Tricky conditions, and particularly with the new rule that was introduced just before the start of having to use one particular type of tyre. I actually thought maybe we were fuelled incorrectly for that, but it's worked out well. You know, a bit of luck comes into it, but I think, you know, going very long on the fuel was the right thing for us today.
But you knew about that rule. Seems Ferrari didn't.
It does seem so. It is a bit surprising, actually, because you're not allowed to change the fuel with the timing of this race after 12 o'clock. And that rule came out at 12:15, so it's a little bit surprising, I guess.
OK, but what about the job Heikki did today?
Fantastic, you know, intense pressure at the end, particularly. But as we saw at Spa, he's a good defender, he's a good racer, and he just kept pushing in very, very difficult conditions. So those are two rookies, first and second. That's pretty good, isn't it?
Well done.
Good day for Renault, but an outstanding day for Lewis Hamilton. Sum it all up and give us an idea why his celebrations were so strong at the end.
You know what, I think every driver today should be driver of the day because I think they've earned it. But Lewis Hamilton, fantastic stuff. You've got to remember he's a rookie, Steve. He's an inexperienced Formula One driver and he's doing everything right. And he's got to go on from here, pivotal race, to win this World Championship. I can't see anybody catching him now.
Yeah, the World Championship seems to be in his grasp, dare we say it.
Dare we say it, but we're only a week away from finding out because, as you say, mathematically, if he beats Alonso next weekend, we have a new World Champion. My fingers are crossed already, but I don't think we need to do that.
Well, thanks, Mark. If you got up late and you've only just caught the end of the action, you've got an awful lot more to catch up on, and you can do that in our rerun programme, which is underway at 11:30 this morning on ITV1, with further highlights at 10 past midnight tonight. Now, next weekend is a similar schedule. Let's hope it's not similar weather, but it might be similar drama for the Chinese Grand Prix at Shanghai, qualifying live on Saturday morning, 6:30 ITV4, repeated on ITV1 at 11:40, and then the race live at 6 a.m. on the Sunday morning, ITV1, repeated 11:30 in the morning. This afternoon, the Rugby World Cup continues. 3 more of the final group games, including the big match for Ireland against Argentina, 3:45. But the next big race in Shanghai, get up early, we'll have an all-night party, but make sure you don't miss it because this World Championship title is almost in the grasp of Lewis Hamilton. Bye-bye.